Hello, today's video is the first in an ongoing series of half-hour gardening projects, so things that you can do in just half an hour. Today I'm looking at a very simple herb bed. I'm Liz Zorab and this is Byther Farm. So one of the first things I needed to do was think about how I was going to tackle the weeds. This little patch of grass is chock-a-block with weeds, including perennials like dock leaves, buttercups, hogweed and lots of grasses. But I thought this space would be a really good place to put a herb garden. It's very close to the kitchen, so while I'm cooking I can come out, just gather whichever herbs I want for my cooking, pop back into the kitchen. I had a herb bed just outside the kitchen in our previous home and I'm really pleased to be able to do it again here. And so what I've done is I have used a weed suppressing membrane, but not the sort that I used in Monmouthshire. One of the lessons that I learnt was that although the plastic weed suppressing membrane did suppress the weeds for a while, the wood chips that I put on top of them then allowed weed seeds to germinate and for perennial weeds to get back in and weave themselves through the woven membrane and become this really thick mat, which became really difficult to take up. Added to which, when you cut the membrane, all the fine strands would come away and we found little shreds of plastic all over the garden, including in birds' nests, and I don't want that repeated here. So I've been looking for an alternative. This is a paper mulch for a company called Mulch Organic, and they make a paper and also a cornstarch weed suppressing membrane. I'm going to be trying 4 different types in this garden over the next year. I will keep you up to date with how I'm getting on with them. So this one is like a crepe paper, so it's scrunched together as it arrives. And manufacturers say this will take about a season to break down, a growing season. So I'm expecting it to break down in 3 to 6 months, something like that. I've doubled it over, which they say will make it last a little longer. I'm quite happy with that. I think that's going to be enough time to deny light to the weeds underneath. I need to make sure that they're all tucked in and they're covered over. And then you can just cut a hole in this paper and plant through it, or you can do as I'm doing, put a little compost over the top of it and grow into that. Now they do advise that you can put maybe an inch and a half of topsoil or 1 inch of compost over this paper mulch, so I've been quite careful not to put this on too thickly. So I selected the area that I wanted to create the bed in, and for me it's going to be nearest the edge of the wall, so it's very easy for me to access the plants. I folded the paper mulch over, laid it down, and all I've done is put these pieces of wood. They're loose, they're not fixed in or anything, they're just there to stop it blowing away while I'm getting this bed settled. Then I put some all-purpose peat-free compost in the top of it. This seems like a really lovely one. I got it from our local feed merchants and country supplies store, and so I laid some of that on and then I've planted into it. Now some of these plants had much deeper roots than in 1.5 inches to 2 inches, so I have opened the roots out gently and pushed them down. So there is its roots, and I've laid it down so the roots are going across the membrane and then covered it over, and it will settle in no time at all. So these are chives. There's a little flower head there. I'll sprinkle a few of the seeds around to increase the clump. And the great thing about any of these herbs is that they're really easy to grow and to propagate. So the chives came as one clump that I brought from our previous home, and I've just taken the pot, divided the plants up and put those in. They'll quickly grow away, and over the next couple of years grow into quite big clumps. There's parsley. This is a flat leaf one. This grows very easily from seed. There's some sage, likewise from seed or from cuttings. And then I've popped in lots of calendula. These are grown from seed from our... I love the smell of these. They're grown from seed from our previous home, but they're really very quick and easy to grow. I also bought 6 different types of thyme at the beginning of the year, out of very small plug plants, and then potted them on. And before we moved here, I gave them to Erica to look after in her garden. She'll be bringing those over in the next couple of weeks to put in here too. And this is also from our previous home. I lifted this out of the herb bed just outside our kitchen. I left most of it in there. This had grown to an enormous clump. Hopefully now they're in their new space, they'll pick up and rejuvenate and supply me with plenty of marjoram. And this is a golden sweet marjoram, and it's very, very lovely. I use this an awful lot in cooking, so hopefully this will rejuvenate over the next few months. Just here and here are some sweet Sicily. These are grown from seed, not that I sowed them. Nature did this for me. So I was very excited earlier in the year to find lots and lots of sweet Sicily seedlings in the cottage border in the patron's garden at our old house. I lifted them from those beds, grew them on in pots, and I'm now starting to plant them in the garden here. And this is a feverfew. It has very distinctive aroma and very pretty little daisy-like flowers. And this was given to me by Adam and Arath. And I love the smell, I love the flowers even more. So that earns a place in the garden for the brightness of the flowers, the cheeriness of it. I don't use this herb in cooking or for its medicinal purposes. To me, it serves its place in the garden for the pollinators. Some more chives and calendula. And back here, I have a rosemary, which I took as a cutting when I was making a video last year. Well, that's well rooted, and hopefully that will give me a nice rosemary bush there. And one of the other herbs that I use an awful lot is bay. And there is already a bay tree here. Now it's seen better days and needs a bit of attention. Some of it has died off, and I've asked Mr. J if we can bring the loppers out and take that back. But it has got growth on it. It's got new growth, and it's looking quite healthy new growth. We'll take care of that. And I have brought a couple of bay trees with me, but I'm going to plant those somewhere else. So this herb bed, which is about 25 feet long, has taken about 25 feet of the paper mulch, a bag and a half, a large bag and a half of the peat-free compost, and then as many plants as you want to put in it. And obviously you're not limited to using the herbs that I've used. Grow the herbs that you use most in your cooking, and don't forget to add in a few colourful plants just for the joy of it. And so, wherever you are in the world and whatever you've got planned for today, I hope it's a good one, and I also hope you'll join me again next time.